Imagine you have a normal great white shark tooth. Inside its mouth, there are about 300 of these. Now, right next to it, place a massive Megalodon tooth, the size of an adult human hand. Just imagine hundreds of these teeth sinking into your body all at once. It's enough to trigger that primal fear inside us and that deep, dark curiosity about the unknown. A monster the size of a city bus, emerging from the pitch-black depths of the ocean, swallowing a massive whale in a single bite. From Hollywood blockbusters like The Meg to pseudo-documentaries, pop culture loves to keep the idea alive that Megalodon is still out there, lurking in the most remote corners of the ocean. But what is the actual truth? Are these terrifying predators really hiding in the deep sea? Or did the sheer grandeur of nature's most flawless killing machine bring about its own end? Let's take a look at the real story of this legendary giant through the lens of science. Let's start by correcting the biggest misconception that has lasted for centuries. Megalodon was not a giant version of the great white shark. In fact, contrary to popular belief, these two species aren't even closely related. Until the 17th century, Europeans didn't even realize these massive triangular stones were shark teeth. Since the ancient Roman era, people believed these fossils were stones that fell from the sky during a lunar eclipse, or the tongues of snakes turned to stone by saints. They were even used as amulets against poisoning. Finally, in 1667, Danish naturalist Nicholas Steno examined a great white and proved these stones were actually the teeth of ancient giant sharks. But the similarity isn't because they are related, it's because of convergent evolution. Convergent evolution happens when species with no direct ancestor-descendant relationship develop very similar tools under similar ecological conditions, in this case to hunt massive marine mammals. Think of a bird's wing and a bat's wing. Today we know the great white shark line is actually closer to the mako shark. Megalodon, on the other hand, is the last member of the Otodus family, a completely separate and extinct lineage of giant sharks that split off 120 million years ago. That's why its scientific name isn't Carcharodon. It's Otodus megalodon. Because their skeletons were made entirely of cartilage, they rarely fossilized. So, we calculate Megalodon's size using tooth morphology and comparative anatomy. Forget the exaggerated 30 to 40 meter claims of the past. Modern science gives us clear data. The average adult was around 10.5 meters long. The absolute largest individuals reached 15 to 20 meters, longer than a passenger bus. And they weighed between 50 to 100 tons, dozens of times heavier than an elephant. Behind these massive sizes lay a brutal reproductive strategy: intrauterine cannibalism. Inside the mother's womb, the stronger embryos would literally eat their siblings before they were even born, allowing them to be born at a massive size. This created an evolutionary feedback loop, forcing the mothers to grow larger and larger over generations to carry these giant pups. But to truly understand Megalodon, you have to realize their blood didn't flow like other fish. Most sharks are cold-blooded, but isotope analysis shows that Megalodon was a mesotherm, meaning it was partially warm-blooded. They could keep their body temperature higher than the surrounding water. This gave them two massive advantages: entering colder waters to hunt and achieving the sudden bursts of speed needed to take down giant whales. But in biology, no advantage comes for free. To keep this massive, warm body running, Megalodon had to consume an average of 100,000 kilocalories every single day. This narrowed the menu down to just one logical option: the fattest creatures in the ocean, whales. Megalodon was a ruthless, opportunistic predator of the Miocene and Pliocene oceans, feeding on dolphins, sea turtles, and dugongs. To bring down such massive prey, it possessed one of the most flawless biomechanical weapons nature ever designed. Its jaws could open wider than 2 meters. It could swallow you whole without even chewing. But the truly terrifying part wasn't the size of the jaw, it was the sheer force it applied. Biomechanical research using computer simulations shows that Megalodon's jaw could produce a bite force of up to 182,000 newtons. That is nearly 10 times more powerful than a modern great white, and almost 4 times stronger than a T-Rex, and its hunting strategy was brutal. Great whites usually attack the soft underbelly of their prey and wait for them to bleed out, but deep tooth marks on fossilized whale ribs show that Megalodon used its massive jaw power and 18-centimeter serrated teeth to crush the prey's ribcage directly, shattering the heart and lungs within seconds, killing them instantly. So, if it was so powerful and flawless, why did it go extinct? In nature, survival isn't about being the strongest. It's about adapting to changing conditions. Around 3.6 million years ago, during the Pliocene epoch, 3 massive dominoes fell, bringing an end to the Megalodon. First, climate change. The world was cooling down, heading toward ice ages. Glaciers forming at the poles caused ocean levels to drop dramatically. This dried up and destroyed the shallow, warm coastal waters that Megalodon pups needed to grow safely away from other predators. Second, the collapse of the food web. As the oceans cooled, many of the small, slow whale species that made up Megalodon's main menu went extinct. The surviving whale lineages evolved to become much larger, too big for even a Megalodon to handle easily, and they began migrating to the freezing, nutrient-rich waters of the poles. Megalodon was warm-blooded, but it wasn't warm-blooded enough to maintain its core body temperature in polar waters. The prey had moved to a place the predator could not follow. Third, new competition. As food became scarce, new, intelligent, and organized rivals entered the stage. The ancestors of killer whales, orcas, hunting in packs, began roaming the seas. At the same time, the ancestors of the great white shark were expanding. The great white was much smaller, but its smaller size meant it needed far fewer calories, reproduced faster, and survived much more easily on dwindling food supplies. In times of abundance, Megalodon's massive body was a supreme advantage. In times of scarcity, it became an energy black hole that consumed the creature from within. Evolution gave its final verdict once again. It is not the most magnificent that survives, but the one most adaptable to change. Now, let's address the internet's favorite clickbait question. What if Megalodon never actually went extinct? What if it's hiding in the depths of the Mariana Trench? The clear, uncompromising answer from science is absolutely not. Here's why it's impossible. First, fossil records. A single shark sheds tens of thousands of teeth in its lifetime. If Megalodon were alive today, the ocean floor would be littered with fresh, unfossilized Megalodon teeth. Yet, the youngest tooth ever found is 3.6 million years old. Second, thermodynamics and ecology. The Mariana Trench is a food desert. There is absolute darkness, crushing pressure, and freezing cold. An 80-ton apex predator requiring 100,000 calories a day wouldn't survive 3 days down there. Expecting a whale-eating predator to live in the deep trenches is as absurd as leaving a lion on top of Mount Everest to hunt penguins. Third, predator marks. Today, we know giant squids live in the deep ocean because we see their suction cup marks on sperm whales, and we even have video footage of them. But not a single modern marine mammal anywhere in the world bears a scar from a 2-meter jaw. Those viral videos of giant sharks on social media are either perspective tricks showing normal sharks, misidentified harmless giants like the whale shark, or outright CGI and AI hoaxes. Megalodon was undoubtedly one of the most magnificent experiments in our planet's evolutionary history, and ironically, its extinction directly shaped today's marine ecosystem, because the pressure of a giant macro predator disappeared. The blue whales we marvel at today were able to evolve, reaching the largest sizes history has ever seen. Yes, blue whales are larger than the biggest megalodon. They are larger than any dinosaur that ever lived. You are living at the same time as the largest animal to ever exist in the history of the Earth. You are incredibly lucky, and we owe the existence of that beauty to the fact that Megalodon left the stage. Evolution never ends. The departure of one species sets the stage for the rise of another. Megalodon may not swim the Earth today, but what we learn from its fossils helps us better understand our planet's climate cycles, how fragile marine ecosystems can be, and the endless, competitive nature of evolution.